In this video, we're going to make a UI table view using Swift, and we're going to make a custom UI table view with a custom row with in a custom UI view controller. We're going to start off with a new project, a single view application. I'm going to call this the table view project, and I'm going to save this. We're going to use Swift. I'm going to save this. Here we have a project. If we look at the storyboard, in a default project we have a empty view controller. For this, I'm going to make a table view, and drag that in. A table view controller is a view controller that only consists of a table view. What we want is a table view as a part of the layout. So I'm going to place this table view up around here, and I'm going to pin this 0, 0, 0, 0 all to the sides, so it's going to take up the whole screen. I'm going to run this on an iPhone 7 simulator just to see how it looks like. There will be, of course, no information because we haven't added any information yet. So just going to see how it's going to look. I'm going to size this up. And we have a table view. If we add a table view cell, that's the row. This is how we're going to add a single row. We're going to begin by doing this. Now, to give the code for the view controller that says how many rows, what's the content of the rows, and things like that, then we have to take the table view and select this icon, the circle with the arrow, and select what is my data source. That is basically which code defines my content. So I'm going to click and drag that here to the view controller. And also, who is my delegate, which simplified means who controls my actions, such as click on a row and things like that. Now, we have said that the view controller contains this information. If we go to the view controller code and say this is called view controller, it's a UI view controller, and also says that this is a UI table view data source, like we said, and it's a UI table view delegate. Then it immediately shows some errors because I've said that it's supposed to be a data source and I haven't defined those methods. For a bare bone example, we need to define how many rows and what does a row contain. Let's begin by how many rows. If we start to write table view and go for number of rows in section, how many rows are there in a section? There are also number of sections, but we're going to just work with one now. We're going to make a simple example. This function returns an int, how many rows there are. And just for test, do return 5. We're going to have 5 rows. Next thing, we're gonna do table view and look for cell for row at. That is defined. A cell is a row, or it's basically the content of a row. So let's see, the cell for row at an index path, it's the definition of which row it is. This needs to return a UITableViewCell. Let's do like this. Create a variable. We call it cell. It doesn't have to be called cell, but let's call it cell. And then I say TableView. That is a reference to the table view that we're currently, that calls this function. Dot DQ reusable cell, which means give me a new row. DQ means it recycles rows. If we said that we have 1,000 rows and we scroll through it quickly, first off, having 1,000 rows in memory would deplete the memory. Also, if we were to, as rows moved off the screen, that they would be destroyed and new ones coming on the screen, those will be created, takes too much time and resources. So what happens is, as a row moves off the screen, it gets placed in a kind of reusable queue, and as a new row is needed, a new one is picked up from the queue. So what we say here is, give me one from the queue. With identifier, it's a string. This is an identifier for our kind of row, and I'm just going to call this, let's call it the identifier for index path. Index path is a common name for a position in a table view. It consists of a section and row, basically. So it's so you say an index path is a reference to a row in a table view. And which index path are we going to work with? Here it is, index path. Like that. So now I say, give me a cell. And I can immediately say, return cell. What this does, look, identifier, the identifier. This is the identifier for our row or our cell. Let's go back to the storyboard. Select our cell here, TableViewCell. And look, identifier. This has to be the same. The identifier. We could have a few different kind of prototype cells, like a header cell and maybe a content cell and things like that. Those need to be different. Look at this. Unable to dequeue a cell with identifier, the identifier. See? I didn't put in the same one, then you get that error. Let's just call it cell, just to be simple. Cell. Yeah, we said create 5 rows. We doesn't see any difference because we haven't put anything in the cell. When I just say make a cell, it makes a UITableViewCell. It's the system default kind of cell. Let's do like this. Cell, which is our UITableViewCell that we dequeued. And let's say here, You see here we have a detailed text label. We also have a text label. It's a built-in label. Let's set the text to hello. And we run it again. Now we get 5 rows with hello. This get run every single time for every row. So first off, the TableView checks how many rows do I got. Then it tries to make a row, make a row, make a row, make a row. If I said hello plus index path dot row as a string, and this is so we can print out which row number it is. So hello 0 through 4. All right,